Hello? This thing on? I think it might be. Let's see if I remember how to make one of these battle reports. I think it starts with a cordial greeting. Hello, my friends, Luke here, and it has been a year. It's literally, maybe not literally, it's almost been a year since I made a battle report, almost since I played a game of Warhammer as well. I have been busy. I had a kid. I know that's an excuse, but an infant takes a lot of time. I know other people like the Sustainable Center are able to balance it out more, but you know what? I don't want to get in the blame game, but while I was away, you guys let the world end. Seriously, come on. You let Chaos win, and now this thing's just flying through space with Sigmar holding on to it? Like, come on. It should have at least ended with a green tide. That would have been better. Or maybe Nagash and his bone white craziness, you know? Honestly, I started, you know, when I started coming back, the end times were kind of in full swing. I had Nagash, I was painting him up, he was looking great, but it just became something that was really difficult to play, and, you know, I didn't have a lot of time, so I kind of just used that as an excuse and was just waiting for 9th edition to come out. Well, here we are. This is apparently 9th edition. Welcome to the Age of Sigmar. My father-in-law was visiting literally the weekend that they released the free rules online. This is the week before the box set's even out to purchase. So we have the rules, we have the war scrolls, we figured let's give it a shot. Now, if you're watching this in the space future, when a lot of things have been made more clear, at this point in time, there's no real sense for balance. And the rumor is that might not really come as we know it now. So there's really just war scrolls, and there's kind of a general feel on the internet right now that in order to make it balanced, you kind of agree on approximate wound counts. I mean, the game says you should bring these many models and agree on that, but, you know, one model is not equivalent to another model ever in this game. So that's not going to work. We agreed to basically 100 wounds on both sides, 0 to 2 or 3 heroes, whichever you felt, and like 0 to 2 monsters. And that's what we rolled with. You know, basically said don't have over 24 wounds in any war scroll, and that's probably balanced. So that's what we got, and I can't think of anything better to kick off kind of a new edition than the Orcs and Goblins and Dwarfs fighting. I mean, it's just a perfect, just great match every time. So let's see. Here's what we got. Now, who knows if this is balanced? I literally read the rules like once and started just pulling out stuff that I have painted and I love and wanted to see how they played. So I have a Mangler Squig. I've got 5 River Trolls, 11 Black Orcs, just kind of sitting there pretty. Now, going forward, I think everyone on both sides has a Standard Bearer, Musician, and some customization that they picked based on the description for weapons. I'll try to call those out if it makes sense, but just assume that we always have standards and all that stuff because there's no reason not to as far as we can tell. Grimgore Ironhide next because you never leave home without Grimgore. Then I've got 5 regular boar boys, not savages. Want to see how that plays, you know? I really like the models for boar boys, and they kind of sucked in the last edition. Maybe they'll be a little bit better now. Savage Orc Shaman sitting right there next to an Orc War Boss carrying the Wa banner. That has like a passive, I think it's a passive reroll or a passive extra attack. It'll come up in my notes later, but yeah, so as far as I can tell, heroes can't really join units, so yeah. I mean, I actually took those Black Orcs as Immortals, but I totally forget about that and re-rolling later, so you'll have to just remember that in your head. I have a lot to concentrate on. Just it should be nice. Then I got a big old group of Savage Orcs with the big Stabba in there. I gave them Chappas and Shivs because that seemed like what I was used to in the last edition. I don't have 20, so I don't have the over 20 models. You get an extra attack rule, but I figured I'm fighting Dwarves. If I get up to 25, they're going to shoot me under that number before I get there, and I wanted to try Black Orcs. Arachnarok Spider, finishing it off, because you always have to have an Arachnarok. He's fantastic in like 14 or 16 wounds, something major. So on the Dwarven side, we got 15 Thunderers, 1 Cannon, 20 Hammerers, and Jesus, those guys hit hard. We got a Gyrocopter, another Cannon. I said Cannon back here. Sorry about that. That is not a cannon on the previous page. That's an organ gun. This is the cannon. Then he's got a group of Longbeards, a group of Quarrelers, and a group of Iron Drakes. Then, in light blue, Thorngrim, the Grudge Master himself. I know that's not his title. Then Grim Burlixon, to kind of be near the War Machine and do some shooting. And Belagar, who's going to go next to those Longbeards and see what he can do with his Oath Stone. So after deployment, we activate any post-deployment abilities the heroes have, and Belegar gives another 6 inches to the Quarrelers. And so that'll give them a nice long range. Now, for those astute people looking here, I got to pick. I don't remember if we rolled it. I think we had to roll it. I got to pick the board layout, and I wanted to try something new. It looked cool. Then the first thing I put down is the Ragnarok Spider, having to give 12 inches away from my opponent's deployment zone, and it looks like he's trying to actually crowd in the line here and did not respect the 12 inches. But, yeah, that Ragnarok Spider is in the worst possible position. Look at how far everything else is away, and he's just going to get shot. It was the first thing I put down, and I'm worried about a new edition. So just be nice. But the player who finishes setting up first goes first on the first turn, or rather gets the choice, but I want to go. And I just do a run with everyone, like literally run in this edition, if you're not familiar, is your normal movement plus a d6. Everyone's scooting up, and I don't think I was actually running on the Mangler. I think I didn't realize he could run because I'm used to him being random movement. So everyone's running up. Over here, I make a mistake with the Ragnarok and have him actually run. I'm trying to get close. I forgot. I read the rules once. I forgot that if you run, you can't charge on your turn. So I only got an extra 1 inch on that move anyway, and now I'm totally ineligible to charge those Thunderers. That kind of sucks. I mean, it was kind of a long charge anyway, but I'm pulling the savages just right up to try to help out. I'm moving the heroes kind of up on their own too, trying to stay in the middle of everyone so they can support. And then the boar boys are just kind of coming around back here. We go to the charge phase, but since I ran, I can't even try a charge at the Ragnarok, and that's what it looks like. This is the end of the turn for me, and I'm probably going to be in some big trouble. So we go to Dwarf turn 1. During the hero phase, Thorngrim activates his hero ability, which I believe gives everyone an extra attack within 8 inches. So you activate them now in the hero phase, just like it was a spell, and then as long as you're within 8 inches in the attack phase, you'll get this. This won't really come into play this turn, but that's how it's going to work. Looks like everyone's just beginning to move up. So over here you can see the Gyrocopter moves up, the Iron Drakes move up as well, and the Quarrelers move up. It's just kind of a slow dwarven march as they are wont to do. Go to shooting. The Iron Drakes are out of range, I'm pretty sure mostly, but the hero, or the champion, has the Trollhammer Torpedo, and that was a choice. You know, he can choose whatever weapon he wanted. He shoots it and has -2 rend on it, so I only have a 6 up, and I make my save, which is good, because I think that would have hurt a lot. Unfortunately, I take 6 damage here as the Thunderers just open up on me. 6 is a lot. I did really poorly on the armor saves. And the organ gun gets lucky. Now, the organ gun works a little differently. You choose how many barrels you want to load, and as long as you roll a die equal to or higher than that number, it's going to go off, and then it's a d6 per barrel. Well, he wanted to do 4 and blow the thing out of the sky. He ended up rolling a 2, so that's not going to go. So you kind of have to decide, do I feel fine with a 50-50? Do I need to try to do fewer barrels and all that stuff? So it's kind of a cool mechanic, and it's definitely terrifying to be looking down the barrel of that thing. So we go into turn 2, and now because it's not the first turn where I had placed first, we actually roll a d6, and a high roller gets to choose. Dwarfs go first this turn. That's not good for me. Thorngrim uses his ability again to give extra attack, and the Gyrocopter moves up, as you can see. Looks like all the other little guys are starting to kind of move up as well. The Gyrocopter's got some damn good range there. I feel like my animation skipped there. Let me jump back. Please ignore the fact that it's spelling this out. Pretend it's working perfectly. Okay, yeah, there we go. So everyone's moving up, and okay. So the Iron Drakes shoot, and so do the Quarrelers. Sorry, those are Thunderers, and they put me at 14 wounds. So whatever it was, I feel like he has. Yeah, I'm supposed to be at 13 wounds, because the Ragnarok actually has 14. I have 1 wound left at this point. That's all you need to know. So, regardless of the math, that's what I've got. So, that's the shooting phase of everyone that can shoot over there. I survived by 1 wound, but guess what? It's still the Dwarf's turn, so they go to the charge phase. They charge in, and I'm a dead spider. And even before I get to go, they get to attack first. So, it's not initiative. If you're not familiar with Age of Sigmar, it's not based on the initiative. If it's your turn, Everyone who's in combat with each other, the person whose turn it is gets to choose who's going to fight first, which of his side. Then your side chooses who's going to fight first, or I'm sorry, who's going to fight second. Then it goes back to the player whose turn it is. So you go back and forth. Everyone's going to fight in everyone's turn, but that means instead of initiative, you're just going to have to pick who you want to wail on first. And in this case, I didn't even get a chance to go. And that's the end of the turn. No more Ragnarok. And so now we're going to go to Orcs turn 2. We go to the hero phase. First cast Mystic Shield on the Savages, so all casters know 2 spells, and in addition to usually 1 other spell. The other spell is Foot of Gork. That's obviously what a shaman knows. It kind of makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, he has like a +1 save increase, which is what I just cast here, and he has some sort of like magic missile, does a little bit of damage, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, hey, Savages don't really have a good save, so we'll just increase it by 1, try to help out. Over here, everyone's just moving up. You can kind of see continually moving the boar boys around. Now I think they're in range to actually try to charge. I'm not running the Savages, so I'm going to try to move up and charge. They just do a normal move. Looks like the Black Orcs also. I think the Black Orcs and the Trolls are running at this point because there's not really a chance they can actually charge anyone. And the Mangler cruises way up on his 2d6. So over here, there's no shooting at all for me, at least on this side. And so we go right to the charge phase. I charge on the Savages, and I try to make a charge in with the Boar Boys. And only the Savages make it. But I think that should go my way. At least I'm really hoping it goes my way. So go to combat. It's my turn, and I'm the only one. You know, it's my turn, so I get to say, my guys are going first. And I pick the unit. I pick the Savages. Is the only one there. I go first, basically. Big Stabba goes, does 3 wounds. I end up killing 5 more. Let's see, I don't... Huh. That's weird. My little death icons aren't showing up. That's weird. So yeah, the Big Stabba goes, does 3 wounds. I kill 5 more. He attacks back and doesn't do any wounds, which is pretty great. I guess I kind of suck in combat, and also I had my save. Now, the Savages also kind of have a ward save. There aren't really ward saves in this edition, but because they have War Paint, it's for everyone who failed their save and die, roll a die, and on a 6, they don't actually die. That's their way to keep the flavor of the ward save in. So now the combat is over. After he swung back, we go to the Battle Shock phase. Battle Shock phase is basically, are you going to have anyone run away now because combat was so bad it scares them away, basically. You pick up a die, you roll a d6, and you add it to the number of dead models. Not wound stealth, but dead models on your side. So in this case, he has 8 dead on his side and rolled a 2 on the d6, which means 1 more fled. Wait a minute. 8 dead plus d6 of 2, 1 more flees. Why would only 1 more flee? I must have that totally wrong. I think he probably had rolled an 8 in my notes altogether. He should have lost 2 is the moral of the story, but all of his dwarves have a banner choice, and they all chose the banner where you lose half of the amount that you would normally lose from Battle Shock. So 2 were going to run and only 1 does, but I feel pretty confident about this anyway. So here's the end of turn 2. We go to the Dwarf turn 3. They roll the initiative again and decide to go first. So we go to the hero phase. Extra attack from Thorngrim again. Bloop, goes out like you'd expect. The Gyrocopter is going to go to a little move and shoot. So here's how it moves up. It's going to just stand right in front and fire away with its steam gun, which has gotten significantly better. The steam gun hits all models in the unit, which is way better than last edition. So hopefully that won't kill the Black Orcs too much. The Hammerers finally decided to start moving. They'd kind of just been not sure how fast everything was going to go, was just keeping it. I mean, it was weird because they were still just facing the middle, but there's not really facing in this edition. You can just kind of move as you want. So it felt weird to us both, but we were kind of going through the exercise of realizing it's not really a big deal. So they just kind of move their 4 inches, dwarvenly saunter on over, and they'll be a threat, unfortunately. So everyone moves up, we go to shooting, and here is how this thing breaks down. The 4 Thunderers in combat with the Savages do 1 wound, just kind of shooting into the fray, because you can do that. We're not in the combat phase, you can just shoot. We're not locked in combat, we're just near each other. The Drakes do 3 wounds, shooting from far away, and then the Organ Gun on the Savages does 14 shots across 3 barrels. He manages to get him to go off. 9 hits, 6 wounds, and 3 dead after my 6+ save and 6+ war paint save. That's not that bad. It could have been way worse. But there's a decent amount of guys on the ground that we're going to have to battle shock against, and we haven't even got to combat yet. The steam gun goes off, does 5 wounds to the Black Orcs, and has at a -1 rend. Come on, I only saved 1 of them. That sucks. How does steam have rend? That's weird. Now at this point, I make a mistake, and I actually knock my guys over. I didn't realize until way later in the game that Black Orcs actually have 2 wounds. That's a common theme for me. There's a couple of other units that'll pop up that I didn't realize have multiple wounds, like the Boar Boys. I think all cavalry in this edition, from what I can tell, is more beefy than 1 wound. Black Orcs having 2 wounds, that's freaking awesome, man. I'm very stoked about that. So I didn't really pay for that in the beginning, thinking they only had 1 wound, so it was kind of an advantage to me, but I'm not actually even taking it. So the Quarrelers pop 3 wounds on the Mangler. There's really no like -1 to hit them or anything anymore, so he's just kind of in trouble out there on his own. We go to the charge phase. The Hammers charge in, make it no problem. We go right to the combat phase, and I take 10 wounds. Now, he has 40 attacks. Oops, that screen just flew right by. Here we go. 40 attacks, because they have 2 attacks each. They would have had 60 if Thorngrim had kept up with them, but so thankfully they just moved out of that range. He ends up with 25 hits, 15 of which wound, and 10 of which end up kill me. I end up making, between the rend, I think I lose, they have rend, so I lose my save altogether, and then my ward paint actually comes through. So yeah, I mean, I guess I must have rolled like 5 saves. I only have 2 left, all said and done. So the 2 left are just the big stabba by when it's time to go, and you know, it's like a 2 wound model. I hit back. Now damage is interesting in this way because as far as we can tell, you hit and wound with 1 attack that does multiple wounds, and it's not like the previous edition where it can only multiply if that monster has multiple wounds. No, like the big stabba does 2 wounds, and it just hits 1 guy, but it kills 2. So 2 of them die, and I think that puts only. I was hitting the Quarrelers here, not the Hammers. So I think there's only 1 Quarreler left, actually. So we go to the Battle Shock phase. Yeah, that was way too many wounds. The big Stabba runs away, and the Final Thunderer actually runs away as well. Here's a picture of basically the end of the turn. We go to Orcs turn 3. Waiting for the animation there. Come on. There we go. Grimgor uses his +1 to hit ability. And that's kind of what he's going to do. Basically, it's called Everyone Fights or Else. He's going to do that pretty much every turn going forward. The War Boss uses his Wah ability, which is going to allow everyone in 12 inches in the combat phase an extra attack. And that's in conjunction with, I think he has reroll 1s within 16. I'm pretty sure that's the Banner's ability that he has there. The Savage Orc Shaman uses Foot of Gork, and it stomps down, killing 2, burning 2. Sorry about that. My animations are really off right now. But unfortunately, it doesn't stomp again, so at least he got a little bit of damage in there. And I believe these were mortal wounds, so there was no save at all. That's nice. I got to whittle these guys down. That's 4 attacks right there, or 6 if Thorngrim gets close, which I hope he does not. Boar Boys move forward. Everyone else just kind of starts moving up toward the middle. I make the choice with the Boar Boys to send them right. I'm agonizing. I have got them going up the left flank, and I don't think they're going to be much help to anyone there. There's no facing, so they can be charged anywhere. At this point, they'll be closer to some of the buffs in the middle, and maybe, just maybe, I mean, I went my max distance there, maybe I can make a long charge into the Iron Drakes and just blow them away before I get charged by the Hammers. That's what I'm hoping. And because it's the bottom of turn, what are we in, turn 3? I might be able to go first next turn and then just blow through them and not even really be in danger of those Hammers. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Everyone else is just closing up the middle. The Black Orcs they move within 3 inches so they can charge the gyrocopter. The Trolls look pretty close to the copter, but they are outside of 3 inches because I'm thinking those guys just will run right by. I don't really need them in combat. The Mangler doesn't go super far, but again, I'm thinking I can probably run in, and I don't, I'm not using run on this, but I suppose if I had ran, I couldn't charge on my turn. So I'm kind of struggling with how does random movement that's so ingrained in my head with the Mangler actually work here. But yeah, he basically just ends up here, and he hasn't run at any point. We go to the charge phase, and the Black Orcs go into the Copter. And then I actually have Grimgor also go into the Copter, and he can kind of just charge and go right around, which ends up working out really well for him because I'm thinking I can just get him a little bit closer next turn. And that Copter's really freaking dead, I'm pretty sure. The Mangler actually makes a charge into the... those guys are quarrelers there. He only has a couple of... I mean, he's taken 3 wounds. He has a decent amount, but not a ton. I think he is a big damage dealer. I haven't really read and kind of internalized all the stats at this point, but I know that they functionally blow up when they die, and he'll be at least a good distraction, hopefully, while I can smash the other side of the army. But we shall see. The War Boss, believe it or not, makes a really long charge. He didn't run. I made that choice not to have him or the Board Boys run so that they could make, attempt long charges. He makes a charge in the Iron Drakes, and so do the Board Boys, and I think that's going to go really well for me. My buff's right up where I want it to be. Those Iron Drakes, they are going to have an extra attack, so that could really be a problem for me. The part of the reason they made that charge is because one of the fancy rules the Orcs and Goblins have is as when you're rolling your charge dice, if you yell "wah," you have the wah horns, and actually, literally, when you the player are rolling the dice, if you bellow out a wah, you get an extra 2 distance on your roll. So I did it, and I regret nothing. I actually really like those fancy, silly rules that a lot of people are complaining about. I think most of them are great. So we go to combat. It's my turn. I've got the Mangler in combat. I've got my War Boss, and I've got these Boar Boys. This is where some of the strategy comes in about deciding who's going to actually go first. Who do I want to attack with? Because it's kind of agonizing because I know my Mangler's up there, doesn't have good saves, could just die. I could just lose him without anything really coming out of him, and I'm pretty sure those guys aren't going to clean up all of my Boar Boys, but I think that's more attacks that I could lose. So I decided to go with the Boar Boys first, and they only land 4. I kind of think I forgot about some of my static buffs and was just looking at the sheet. So there's only 4s, 4 die on his on that side. He swings back and doesn't land any, which actually works out pretty well. It's mostly a whiff fest, but 4 is a decent number. I know more than 4 have fallen over there, but I think that's coming up later. I think I'll show that in a second. So I had considered doing the Mangler first, like I said, but I ended up coming here second. Instead of doing the War Boss with the banner, I ended up coming up here for my second attack. After his whiff, I end up completely biffing all the attacks from the Mangler, and he would have done a lot of damage. I think it's like a d6 roll, and every hit from the chains does 3 damage, and then there's a 2 damage set of fangs, and then there's even a Goblo up top. I think I killed 1 from the Goblo up top, and that was it. This guy could have destroyed things, and I'm realizing that now as I'm rolling the dice, like, holy crap. Hopefully he survives so I can do some damage later. In combat with the Gyrocopter, I only do 3 wounds. It's kind of pathetic. I forgot about Mortals and wasn't doing any of the rerolls. Again, there's 3 heroes on the board with abilities, and there's all these units I'm not used to, so that's why I'm missing things. But because of my stupidity, it's going to live, and I think it has 1 wound left or something like that. So I'm not worried. The Gyro does nothing back on the Dwarven, on the next Dwarven combat. It doesn't do anything here, so... it's just kind of a push for a minute. And I think Grimgor also whiffs? He must whiff, because this Gyrocopter lives here at the end. So I finished with the War Boss and ended up landing 5 more. Like I said, this is the picture from earlier, but yeah, I ended up landing 5 more, so there's only 1 guy standing at the end. During the Battle Shock phase, we had killed 2 down here in the hammers, and you have to test based on wounds done. The hammers don't lose anything. The remaining 1 Iron Drake, he runs away. That was definitely going to happen. And then there's no other Battle Shock to do because, again, it's based on models lost. So that is the end of my turn. Oh my gosh, I did win the next one. Yeah, that's awesome. So we go to turn 4, and I win, and I choose to go first like an orc. So the Savage Orc Shaman casts Foot of Gork here. He does 3 mortal wounds and pick up a D6 and roll it. It stomps again, doing another 2. 5 wounds is great. It doesn't seem like it's chipped out a lot, but that's a lot, and they're going to have to test on that at the end of the phase, even if they don't get into combat. Now, you can tell there was no overrun last turn. He's most likely going right up the boar boy's butt there, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to have these wounds where every phase matters, but it is weird not to have to, like, test for panic and things. So there's, like, different strategy here. I'm really still trying to figure it out. Anyway, Footagork, a pale comparison of what it used to do, but at this point, I'm really happy. We start movement. The heroes do their various shouts and everything, and I'm not animating that right now. Grimgor uses his +1 to hit for everyone within 10. The Orc War Boss with Banner uses +1 attack to everyone within 12. The Shaman then runs to join everyone here, so he does his casting on the hero turn, then he does movement. He's running. I don't need him charging anywhere. I just need him to be close to people and kind of away from the hammers. That was nice. Got a nice long distance there. Grimgor, realizing that Grimgor's not needed in this fight to do the last wound, I'd use a withdraw. Now, a withdraw action says you can move away from combat as long as you end your turn outside of 3 inches from an enemy, and I can do just that. So I do it. I don't think you can run at that point, so I didn't try for another d6. It was kind of unclear in the rules, but I just had him back out. Now he's giving his passive or his aura out to more models, and I don't need him to be in there. Yeah, he could get shot a little more, but whatever. It's just a little closer to where I want him. The trolls walk right past the copter, not coming within 3 inches. Again, I want them to try to charge on the big general there, whose name eludes me at the moment. Now, I'm going to come back to this screen here in a second, I think. I kind of did some of this stuff out of order as we were learning this. So the boars shimmy around. I'm out of combat, and it's my turn, so I just have the guys kind of move sideways and reposition themselves. You can't come within 3 unless you're charging, and if you start within 3, you can't move. So I basically, I think I just moved up to within 3 of the general there. And so I'm just getting ready for it. Obviously, easy charge and positioning where it makes a little more sense there. Now everyone charges in on Thoric, and the trolls also make the long bomb charge in, which was pretty great. And it's at this point that I realize, having charge in, that they can shoot. So we kind of go back here and say, okay, before the charge, like, I thought their puke in the last edition was a melee attack. It turns out it's not. It's actually a ranged attack. So we go back, we let the, before the charge actually happens, we let the trolls puke at range, and they just blow out the gyrocopter. So it actually makes these black orcs totally free from combat, but this is already past the point of movement. If there was someone else for them to charge, then they could do that in the charge phase, but that's not the case, so they're just going to kind of stand there. But it's cool. This kind of run by puking and knocking planes out of the air. I really like it. And like, I had 5 puking attacks that multiplied to 3 wounds. Only one of them hit, but it did wound and finished it off, which was nice. So we go to the combat phase, having shown what the charges were on 2 pictures ago. I choose the Mangler first because he has 1 wound, and I want to get some mileage out of him. Yeah, it's bad that Thorngrim is going to get to swing first. I'm agonizing over this, right? Because he's going to wail into my guys. But again, I'm looking at the sheet for this Mangler, and he only has like 1 wound left. So I want him to do his just big nasty attacks. So the Mangler's chains, the chain attack I do first, I get 3 wounds on that. They all multiply to 3, doing 9, and just killed the unit outright. Just boom, before they even got to it. That was only one of the 3 sets of attacks. So I think that was the right call. Yeah, the Mangler's going to die from everyone else up there most likely, but I got a free unit out of that, and I just have to weather the storm from Thorngrim. And here it comes. So Thorngrim goes next. He aims at the Boar Boys, which I think was a mistake in hindsight, and we're still trying to figure out what all the attacks do. But he does 4 attacks. He only gets 3 hits and 2 wounds, and they multiply to 3 wounds each. So, I'm sorry, he gets 3 hits, 2 wounds, multiply to 3. I'm probably have something in my... Yeah, 3 should have been actually... Okay, so ignore my hits and wounds. That was wrong. He scores 3 wounds here altogether. And they multiply... Well, crap. Yeah, my math isn't adding up. Ultimately, he gets 3 wounds, and I knock over 3 boar boys. That was my mistake, because I think his attacks multiply, and we forgot about it. Yeah, oh, that's what it was. Okay, I figured it out. Sorry, reading through my notes here. He gets 1 wound that lands. I actually saved 1, which multiplies to 3. Now, I knock 3 boar boys over because I'm used to these guys only having 1 wound. It turns out that they actually have 2 each. So he got 3 wounds, but I actually gave him 6 by knocking over 3 guys. So, you know, I didn't really pay for those, in quotes, because I wasn't, I didn't even realize that when I was building out my army. But yeah, his 3 wounds should have only knocked over 1 boar boy and left 1 wound on another. That would have been nice to know at the time. But yeah, basically I'm treating them as if they had 1 wound. So that's why it says 3 equals 6 there. His hammerers below, the ones that are holding up the throne, end up getting no wounds to go through and do nothing. So now it's my turn to pick who's going to go next. I have the trolls go. They only have their club attacks. I think they get like 3 each. He ends up saving 3. He has an ability to re-roll his missed saves. Now again, he only has the 1 save, the armor save, but he gets his re-rolls, which is pretty bananas. And he missing 3 doesn't actually save him on the re-rolls. Ends up taking 4 wounds. And I had forgot to multiply them by 2 here, I think. I'm pretty sure. It says 6. Yeah, my math's a little off. I think this might be a picture from later, which is why he has 6. So just stay with me now. We're going to... At this point, only the trolls have gone, and they have done some number of wounds. I think it only did like 2 at this... Or I only did like 4 at this point. Eventually, he will end the turn at 6. We go to the battle shock phase now. Oh, that's what it was. I ended up doing 4 wounds to him from the trolls. And then look, those 2 boar boys who were there, between the boar boys and the war boss, I end up landing the other 2. I think it was like 1 and 1, all said and done. So 6 wounds total. He's still alive, but he's holding on there. He's looking pretty bad. So hopefully, as long as he doesn't go bananas on me, next phase I'll actually get to finish him off, and he won't get all those be giving out those extra attacks to everyone. So we go to the battle shock phase. The hammers lose the roll by 4, which would have meant they actually lost quite a bit, but they only lose 2 because of the banner that they have. No battle shock here since everyone's done. No battle shock here since everyone's dead who is in combat, and there's no panic. It's really weird. Definitely hard to remember, and it feels weird after this many years of Warhammer. So dwarf turn 4. Kind of picture the end of the turn and the beginning of the next one. We go to the hero phase. Thorngrim uses his +1 attack if anyone's near him. Belegar uses his +1 attack on the Longbeards by the Mangler. And the Longbeards actually have an ability, Old Grumblers, and as long as the opponent complains about something in a suitably dwarven manner, he gets to activate an ability. And so he did. He complained about the state of taxes, and he used the ability, Goblins are weedier these days, allowing him to re-roll 1. So extra attacks and re-rolling 1s on those Longbeards. I know those models have hammers, but they're actually Longbeards. And so I thought that was fitting, goblins being weedier these days, because there's goblins all over the Mangler. There's no movement here because these guys are starting their turn within 3 inches of the Mangler. And the way it works is if you do that, you either have to stay still or you have to withdraw and get more than 3 inches away. And these guys are out for blood, so there's no withdrawing here. The hammers move up their 4 inches. Doesn't really look like it because they're super stunties. And Thorngrim can't retreat. He actually tried to, but because of the way I was surrounding him and how big my models were, also how long Thorngrim is, if he backs up his 4 inches, he could not get more than 3 inches away from me. It worked in my favor, and this is where I started to see the strategy of kind of trying to surround your opponent to, 1, make sure he can't cross you and can't leave. You know, a model can't walk over another model. But this also means that, you know, you can kind of game it so he can't quite withdraw his 3, in this case, is 4 inches away. Now, I'm still not sure if you can do a run on a withdraw. That's not really covered in the rules as of this day, but anyway, Thorngrim can't leave, so we're going to polish off those last few wounds. During the shooting phase, the organ gun shoots at the boar boys. He decides to load 3 barrels, makes the roll, gets 8 shots, 3 of which hit and 2 of which wound. I save 1, even with a -1 rend, and I knock over the other guy, which basically means I still have my banner bearer. And I forget what the banner bearer does. I think it's the Yeah, I forget which one it does, but it was important to save the banner bearer, I remember at the time. Again, he did really just one wound to me, but I knocked over one guy. I forgetting that the boar boys actually have 2 wounds, so kind of painful for me. Yeah, here's a picture of them still not realizing they have 2 wounds each, knocking one over. The cannon takes aim at the trolls. Cannons now have 2 shots as long as they as long as they're at their 4 wounds left or crew standing next to them. So he gets 2 cannon shots, 4 pluses to hit, misses them both, but Grim Burlickson is right there and grants his engineering ability, letting him to re-roll those, and they both miss again, which is pretty nice. And it's weird being able to shoot a cannon like basically into combat there. I know it's not quite the same, but it does still feel weird in this edition. We go to the charge phase. The hammers charge in onto the war boss being the closest. They're able to get right on him. Belagar and the Longbeards just pile in on the Mangler. That's going to go well for him, I'm pretty sure. Dwarf turn, so he gets to go first. I don't have a good picture of this, but he decides to, you can kind of barely see it at the top. He decides to go with Thorngrim first before he dies. Remember, Thorngrim's on like 1 or 2 wounds here. He swings. He does 9 wounds, having an extra attack, and every wound, or every actual wound that gets through your save doing 3 damage. So 9 total damage comes out, and that knocks over the 2 complete models of the 4 wound river trolls and puts 2 on the next guy. Puts 1 on the next guy, and then the hammerers below him that are holding his throne end up doing 1. So 2 wounds fall. 10 total wounds done and 2 models have fallen over, and the distinction is important in the battle shock phase. I choose, I'm agonizing over this, but I choose to do the Mangler first on my side. It's my choice to say what combat we're going to fight next, and I say Mangler because I want to do those wounds, and I'm hoping that even though he's giving extra attacks to the hammerers, I'm hoping it doesn't hurt that bad. So I roll my d6, I get 2 wounds with the chains. He blocks 1, even with a Ren -2, and so I only score 1 that does 3 damage, though, knocking over 3. My Fangs, I do 1 wound at 2 damage, knocking over 2 more, and the Gobbo up top lands 1 for 1 damage, knocking over 1. So 6 total go down. That's pretty respectable for basically kind of poorly rolling. And that's what the Mangler's going to do. If we go over to his turn to pick the next combat, and he chooses Hammerers. Now, the Hammerers, I thought this was really cool. This might be the way it works in 40k, I'm not quite sure, but the Hammerers made their charge on one enemy unit, right? That at this point was the war boss with the banner. We get to his combat phase, he gets to pile in on anyone within 3 inches, and he's like, well, I don't want to wail on the guy with the banner, I want to hit these freaking trolls. So he uses pile in to get 3 extra inches of movement to move everyone near the trolls and attack there, which is brilliant. He gets 33 attacks out of the remaining 11 hammers, and that's because Thorngrim isn't dead yet. Now this is where not fighting and killing Thorngrim first is really hurting me. Of those 33 attacks, he only gets 14 hits, though. He hits on 3s, but the River Trolls are making him hit on 4s because they have that kind of... The River Trolls had that in the last edition, a -1 to hit, effectively. So that ends up working really well for me. He just kind of cuts it in half. He does score, of those 14 hits, he gets 10 wounds through. Yeesh. And I only end up saving 2. And that sucks. I end up taking 8 wounds, which means 1 troll is left. And that troll has 2 wounds on him. So basically, yeah, that troll's probably going to run away in the battle shock phase. Now I'm thinking, oh no, like I kind of got too greedy. I might not have enough juice left over between my 3 models here just to take out Thorngrim. The troll swings back, and I score a couple wounds, but he ends up shaking them both off, getting his re-roll any failed save ability. Dwarven player chooses Belagar next to go first, and Belagar just destroys the Mangler easily, but when the Mangler blows up, he does, I think it's D3 wounds to anyone within 6 inches, friend and foe. Mortal wounds, that is. Mortal wounds in this edition do not allow a save. And so Belagar takes full 3 from it, which is nice, because I think that only leaves him on like 1 or 2 wounds left. And I do 2 on the Longbeards, which is good, because I want those Longbeards, I want more wounds on those guys, so that when the Battle Shock phase comes, it makes it, the more wounds I do now, the more wounds will render out then too. So I'm happy about that. This is just a picture of the explosion and then the amounts of damage I did on both sides. So okay, it's now my turn again. I choose the War Boss. The War Boss has because he has the banner, he has like a massive choppa, and he gets 4 attacks because Grimgor's nearby, giving him an extra 1. He gets to reroll 1s and all this extra stuff. I get 3 hits. I do 2 wounds. He fails an armor save, rerollable, and fails it again, which means the last wound hits him, wounds him, and then multiplies and just kills him right dead, which is pretty great. At this point, the boar boy was in contact with the king, and he's dead, but he's within 3 inches of an enemy, so there's no dwarven combat left to do. It comes back to me as the orc player to finish up the last of the combat. I use my pile in to get in contact with the hammerers, and I do 1 wound over there from the boar boy. So it's really cool. I love these combined combats. I like that you can choose who you're going to fight as long as you can literally pile the guys close enough to them. You can choose which models you're going to pull off to kind of shimmy to one side or the other. It's definitely different than 8th edition, but it's got a lot of benefits going for it, and I think there's a lot of strategy to be learned there. So I'm digging that. Battle Shock phase. The Longbeards roll a 6, and they had lost 8, which puts their number at 14. People are going to run away. They divide that by 2 because of their banner, and that's the exact number. 7 is how many they had remaining. 7 dwarves flee, and my Mangler buys me a second full unit on his own. That guy was worth his points. I say points. He had no points. He was worth his war scroll. Belagar is not in combat. Belagar is his own war scroll. Doesn't have to take a battle shock test because he's his own guy, and no models have died in terms of his war scroll. The troll ends up fleeing because he had lost, I think, 4 of his buddies. Flees and doesn't have a chance to regen at the beginning of the next turn. The boar boy's still fine. He ended up losing 1, but he made his bravery test no problem. And then my war boss is absolutely fine. The hammers have lost some, but I can't remember how many. Actually, they might not have lost any here. Now that I think about it, it's probably why I didn't note it. And this is what's left in the middle melee. This is what we're looking at. The Black Orcs are coming up the back here, and there's just a few guys left. Whatever the hammers touch basically pretty much dies. And that's the end of the turn. We go to turn 5, and the Orcs win the roll to go first. That is huge. I really needed that. The Shaman... Where is he here? So this is a little weird to see this one. The Shaman is where the arrow starts and casts Foot of Gork. Ends up killing 2. Now we're in the hero phase, right? So he's using spells and hero abilities. Foot of Gork goes off and ends up killing 2. Stomp, stomp, yay. That's all good. And then in the movement phase, he does not a run, he does a move over to here. So he casts a spell and he moves over here. Grimgor does his shout ability and then moves over here. Now I didn't do a run because I want both of these guys able to charge in on Belagar, who has like 1 wound left if possible. And those hammers are probably not going to be able to get away from the boar boy and everything. If they want to go kill one of the lone characters, they can. Next, I take the war boss with the banner, and I'm like, I don't really need to risk that guy. I will withdraw him, and I withdraw him his 5 inches, because orcs get 5 inches of movement. I just withdraw him out. He's not within 3 inches of anyone. He's not really in danger. Of course, there's dwarves. He's in danger from shooting all over the place, but now I don't have to risk him in combat. And then I move the Black Orcs up here so that they can try to charge on those hammers, and that looks like they'll be able to make that, hopefully, no problem. So, again, pulling guys out of combat to try to save them, and I probably could have pulled out the boar boy as well, too. It's not like you get points for the whole unit, so I'm still kind of struggling with that if there's any value there, but it's like, yeah, you know, he's more useful pulling the lone characters out because they've got, again, these bubbles of abilities they all have that they can use in the hero phase, and they're all using them. I have, so this is after movement, and there's another picture of what it's looking like. I have no shooting. We go to the charge phase. The Black Orcs make the charge into the hammers, no problem, and I think that could go well for me. I mean, our numbers are pretty low, but it's about this point I'm realizing that Black Orcs have 2 wounds, so I effectively have more wounds to lose there than he can afford. So yeah, make the charge in, no problem. Grimgor makes it in to combat with Belagar, and my Shaman fails, which is probably a good thing. I don't know. He probably could have killed the Shaman, but again, who cares? There's just 1 wound. I'm not sure if that matters. It's 1 fewer bits of combat I get to fight, so I tried to charge him in, and he ended up failing. We go to the combat phase. Grimgor, I get to pick who's going to go first. Again, I'm agonizing. Oh, God, do I try to kill all those hammers before they get to hit my Black Orcs? And I decide to do Grimgor first, just because Belegar is also a strong hero. He's going to kill... He has a potential to kill Grimgor at this point, and he only has 1 wound left. If I go first, I knock him down, and I don't have to worry about him, so that's what I do. I make my Edbutt, no problem, and it just multiplies wounds, kills Belegar, no problem. So then, now here comes the pain. Dwarven player chooses the Hammerers to go next. 16 attacks only this time, because it's not, he has 8 guys, it's not 3 total attacks. They just have their base of 2, because the king is dead. He gets 14 hits, though. Jeez, out of 16? 14 out of 16? That sucks. 7 of which wound, which is a little bit better in my favor, because it's 3 to hit and 3 to wound. And this is where I find out the Black Orcs have 2 wounds each. I think he went right through any armor I had with the Rend, I'm pretty sure. Ultimately, 7 wounds were done, and that knocks over 3 models because of the 2 wounds each, which is great. And this is about when I find that out. My turn to pick combat. I pick the Black Orcs next on the Hammerers. I do 6 wounds back to him. They only have 1 wound each, so 6 fall over. And the Boar Boy sneaks in, and he ends up getting 1 wound as well. So all said and done, there is just a lone Hammerer banner bearer standing here, looking a little bit lonely. This is going to be painful for him come the Battle Shock phase, which is exactly what happens. Poop! He flees, having massive casualties and not being able to make a roll. Not even sure if it was possible. And my Black Orcs end up just manning up. I only lost, 2 or 3, and I ended up rolling well, so with my bravery test, I didn't lose any more. So I have 1 Boar Boy, just a few Black Orcs, and then which is like Hero Hammer out here just on their own. We go to the next Dwarf turn 5. Nothing happens in the hero phase. There's only hero remaining here can only heal war machines, and there's none have taken any damage. This is a constant threat from the dwarves. I really feel like I need some range in the next orc army I build. Footic Orc is not cutting it for enough range. I need to be able to get up there and threaten and shoot and stuff. So remember to bring ranged combat with you when you build the list for the Orcs and Goblins. There's no real movement. Grim Burlixon does his Grudge Raker, which is his like little sidearm big thing. He does it on Grimgor. It does. It hits. It wounds, and it only does 1 wound to him, which is good. I think it was like 6 shots that only ended up wounding once. I don't think it was one of those multipliers. But then his cannon goes with both of his shots. Both of them miss, but Grim lets him re-roll. One of them gets through my save. Because it wounds me, it multiplies to d6, and it does 4. So I am at 5 wounds taken, but I have 6 on Mr. Grimgor, so he is alive still. So I need to get some use out of him before he dies. There's really no place I can run and hide at this point. He can kind of chase me down. Even these war machines can move. He hasn't been using them at this time, but they can move and shoot as far as we can tell. So once you start kind of getting in their death range here, you really can't get away. The organ gun takes aim at the Black Orcs. He ends up loading 3 barrels, needing to roll a 3 or higher, and rolls a 2. So again, I get lucky there, because 3d6 worth of shots would have been bad. So that's the end of his turn. I win the roll again on the final turn, and I just move up. I'm going to try to charge who I can. Trying to move the Black Orcs and the Boar Boy away and try to charge everyone I can. The only one who makes the charge into Grim Burlixon is Grimgor, and he makes that charge no problem. There's really nothing else except their hero abilities happening at this turn, so we go to combat. 1 wound left. It's my turn. I get to go first. I wail on him and kill him. No problem. Grimgor Edbutts him and kills him with his axe, I think, or something like that. So the end of my turn. Staring down the barrel of the cannon. We go to the Dwarf turn here. He just backs up. Cannon can back up no problem, 4 inches. He's got his full crew left to do that. The organ gun moves forward 4 inches, which is keeping him in range to shoot. He ends up loading 2 barrels this time because he has been getting just screwed on rolling for the barrel shots. Gets 10 hits, 10 shots, and then after the hits, wounds, and armor saves, 3 of them come through, which knocks over 1 Black Orc, and the other one had 1 wound on him already, so it knocks over 2 Black Orcs. I don't lose any more in the Battle Shock phase, and this is when we call the game. This is the end of it. So, Orcs and Goblins versus the Dwarfs, Age of Sigmar. Game 1. What do I think? Wow. I like it. I really like it, actually. I'm based on the rumors out there right now, it sounds like we're not going to get any more balancing or really anything else for Warhammer Fantasy. This is it. And from the rumors that GW has kind of been saying through they had a representative answering some questions about it online, and they said that basically as these armies are getting redone and pulled into new alliances, where they're probably going to be ceasing making some of the old models and kind of doing new flavors for everyone. I think the rumors are Skaven are going to be a lot more steampunky, Orcs are going to have a new name and have a different flavor, Elves will combine to the Elves, and I think as that's happening, I'm sad to think that we're going to lose all these great heroes that I know and love, but the world's dead. I get it. I think this game has a lot of good things going for it. I really enjoy it. At first, you're like, oh, this is a really simple game. Like, there's not that much going on. But I actually really thought that it had a lot of strategy going for it. Now, you lose a lot of the pinpoint movement strategy we had from 8th edition, making sure you were facing here and you weren't exposing a flank and you were just a little bit closer. But we also lost out on a lot of that crap that I hated, where it was a chaff game. I just hated the fact that you could have a horde of guys that were tied up by one dog, that was just in the right spot. It just felt stupid. It felt cheesy. That was the game that we had at the time. And I like now that you got a lot more freedom. I think Pile In is a fantastic mechanic. I like the idea that I've got all these guys in a clump instead of ranked formation. I think some units would do well to still have ranks, like High Elf rank Spearmen. Look good, right? But Witch Elves, Savage Orcs, Black Orcs, these guys should not be in symmetrical ranks and files. That is not how they look. They should be leaping around, and I'm excited to see that. I think the game looks better with these clumps of guys that are kind of going around mountains and kind of coming back together. I'm excited about that. I really, really, really like it. For the rest of the game, I don't see a lot of things I dislike, but it is so new that I don't really know. I don't even really know what to make out of it. Some of the changes on the individual units for the Orcs and Goblins I liked, and some of them I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. Their impact is a lot less. Losing Hand of Gork as far as I can see, and having a kind of mediocre Foot of Gork is like, yeah, I get it, but you kind of feel like you lose some of the flavor of your army. But anyway, I encourage you guys, if you haven't played, give it a try. I think it's going to need a lot of games to see where the new strategy is. I think GW has done something really cool. I'm sad to see the old world going, but hopefully the whole, what they have in store for us is going to be great, and they're all in. So I plan to keep playing it, and I don't know if I'll get to keep playing with these guys going forward as we know them, the Orcs and Goblins and the Vampires, or if they're going to become something different with different feels. The only thing we've seen so far are the Sigmarites and the Khorne Blood Tide. They looked okay, but it's a little bit different than Warhammer. Anyway, it's nice to be back. I hope to be getting some more games in soon. Doing these battle reports is a hell of a lot of work. I forgot how long this takes. Thanks for listening, guys.